Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. One of those weeks, I haven't had one of these in a while where I go from Monday video to Monday video and nothing in between. I actually had stuff done. It's actually uploaded and was originally scheduled to release, but I unscheduled it and just said, you know what? Let me just, I'm going to focus on some other stuff for this week because surprisingly, seasonal depression hit me kind of hard this year. I mean, it has been a rough year for me. It's not like a deep, like an actual like depression. It's more like, how everyone refers to just kind of feeling off for a time of the year. And so I just kind of took the week to focus a little bit more on me. And I didn't do that in the correct way, so I couldn't be nearly as productive as I wanted to be. I was trying to do a lot of stream hours. I was having a good time on stream. I did a birthday stream. I did a whole birthmas thing with like bonus incentives and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. It was really good. It brought my mood up. But I realized something pretty crucial in that process, and that just being live for that amount of time took other parts out of my life that I've come to cherish a lot. And it's actually kind of a nice culmination at the end of the year to see what effects certain things have had on me. The big thing is that I wasn't going to the gym. I had workout incentives, so I was doing things like, push-ups and squats and all of that. Plus, I did the whole Hot Ones box. And honestly, other than Da Bomb, wasn't that bad. Even Da Bomb didn't taste that bad, but the way it sat in my stomach, I almost threw up from just it wasn't even nuclear waste here. It was nuclear waste like all throughout the body. I don't even know how to describe it. But it was fascinating. So today I stopped the stream short, did a normal amount of hours, and then did my usual thing. I prepped a protein shake, went to the gym, got a good pump on, and I realized how much I value that experience now and having that kind of daily routine more than being live and putting a lot of time into, doing 5 hours of YouTube and 7 hours of this and then 2 hours of that. I guess having the structure I realized was a really uplifting thing. And that's kind of a nice thing to realize right at the end of the year, because we are going into 2024. And I can tell you right now, I don't want 2024 to be 2020 part 5. I just don't want that. And we're about to go into a really exciting start of the year. Between FanFest, between 6.55, between the massive releases with Tekken, Grand Blue, Persona, Like a Dragon, all at the end of January, at end of February, going into Rebirth. I know there's that Unicorn Overlord or Overload game that Atlas is doing in March, and that's sandwiched by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Dragon's Dogma 2, and then Saga's releasing Emerald Beyond, I think it's called, in April. So there's like all these things immediately to look forward to the next year, and I'm just ready to start the next year. I've got some new content ideas. I've actually made a trailer-ish video for that Souls-like channel, and I'm just trying to figure the right time to kind of start making content for that channel. But I essentially can have it ready and good to go within a matter of minutes at this point. So setting things up for what is hopefully a very productive 2024. I can't have life doing to me what it did to me this last year for another year, because that's going to drive me crazy. So cheers to the start of a new year. Hopefully all of you are looking forward to it in some capacity, similar to mine, similar to the way I am, and look forward to another year of Q&As and expansion hype and speculation and a few other formats of videos that I want to do. One big thing I want to do is my own version of reactions. Now, I don't want to do the obviously when it's like a new trailer or something, I put me in the corner right here, and then, the rest of the video is what I'm reacting to. But like, I want to do more of like, I see something, I kind of condense its points, and then I present mine in like an edited format. That's kind of like the thing that I've always imagined doing for how I would do react videos, because I just need something that's a bit more gratifying. When it's just me sitting there and starting a video and stopping a video and commenting, like every time I've tried doing it, there's a reason why you just don't see it very often, because it's something just feels not satisfying about doing that unless it's some like major, like it's a trailer. Like I can't do anything special with a trailer, like unless I just replay the same part over and over again while speaking over. Like it's not any more creative or engaging. So so I've got plans for stuff like that. I think I've already picked out a video I'd like to kind of look at and dissect and kind of take different points from and add to a discussion about things. And that's really what I want to focus on in 2024, on top of getting that Souls channel going. Once I feel like there's like a good time to hop into that, where I feel like I can just naturally flow into making content on something that's in that Souls-like category. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. Let's start recording this, get into the actual Q&A, and yeah. So thanks to everyone again for 2023 for watching the channel, for enjoying the channel, and then thanks to everyone over on Patreon for supporting for another year. It's not a whole lot, you know, because I don't do anything. You know, all my content's here and it's free. But anyone who is over there, I appreciate you. Anyway, with that, let's get into the Q&A. Hashtag the first Monday with Mr. Happy 2024. Hey. Happy New Year and a fond salutations to you, Mr. Happy. Happy holidays to you as well. With JP FanFest around the corner, I have a most simple question. Do you have your bingo card ready? You know, I think of all the FanFests, the final one is the least interesting bingo card, because they've already had 2 FanFests to give us kind of like, oh, you know, we'll talk about this in Japan, or we'll talk about that in Japan. Like, we know the 8-man raid is coming out. We know the key art for the Alliance raid is coming out. So, like, I guess if you want to bingo card things, you have to make specific guesses. And I don't think we need that for this JP FanFest. Like, I guess then you go Pictomancer or Green Mage, you know, like if you're really dedicated to those 2 ideas, you throw those on a bingo card. And then female Hrothgar. Like, it's just, we know so much of what to expect that it's really hard for me to even think about kind of adding this random guessing game. It's more like just committing to certain smaller details that aren't really that consequential in the long term. So no, I don't have a bingo card ready, but maybe I'll somehow come up with one. I noticed after I was done recording that question, but the box at the bottom was like way over here for some reason. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Habs, and a happy new year to you and the cats. Happy new year to you as well. Long time lurker, second time asker. Welcome back. It's a long time Red Mage and Summoner main. I genuinely felt like casters have been in a really awkward state for Endwalker between the divisiveness of the Summoner rework and the body checks and high iron content heavily influencing whether or not it's even worth to bring a Red Mage for the rest. Despite Black Mage having been the only caster to really feel it, it was in an appropriate spot for the past 2 years. I find it genuinely interesting that no one in content creation sphere has really been talking about it, much in favor of subjects like tank and fizz range balance. As a result, I've been considering shifting from streaming to actually making some produced content discussing the topic, which you should always do if it interests you. That's like, if wanting to do something is like the start of content creation. Lack of discourse is making me wonder if I'm just insane and huffing a ton of copium. It's because it's not as divisive as some people make it seem. So like the topic of body checks and the topic of the raids and the topic of everything is already kind of, it's kind of like obvious that combat reses aren't as valuable as they were. It's not even just the fact that whether or not it's worth to bring a Red Mage. Red Mage is in its melee combo so often, and damage has been kind of crucial to some of the most major kind of divisive points. I'm just going to keep using the word divisive, I guess, in this expansion, in Abyssos, in Top, in DSR. So the question has really become, you know, with how often Red Mage has to be in melee combo versus the loss of that and how much the damage they probably will need in something like Prog Week. It's actually a whole mess of things that kind of all center, in my opinion, around Red Mage. Summoner, obviously the joke of it being the 4th fizz ranged is there, but that's not really divisive because it's a nice, comfortable way for a lot of people to kind of go into a caster. If they can, if they need to res, they can, and you know, they have kind of a little bit more agency on the use of that swift cast and, you know, how they're going to use it in content. How crucial is it for their movement in any given moment, given there's, you know, 3 casts in total you would really ever consider it for, and only one of them is optimal, versus, you know, having it as the backup raise or being able to do the slow cast and say, you know, screw it, you know, when the 1 minute rolls back around, I'll just go into Phoenix, Bahamut, whatever, and just pick up from where I left off at that point. So there's just a comfort to it. So the only real divisiveness is Red Mage and the battle res that it has, and that's more of a job design flaw that's specific to Red Mage, in that the content is, if the content's not made where a lot of resing is necessary, then it loses some value. But we're only talking about Savage. I mean, Red Mage is one of those things you're always glad to have around in casual content. I mean, that's been it ever since it released, you know, with Eureka, with Bozia, with just any 24-man that's a high enough level for Red Mage to have access to res. That's where you really end up seeing the mass amount of Red Mages just taking care of people. And as long as that continues to be a possibility in terms of content structure, like a new exploration zone in Dawn Trail, for example, then that value continues to, it just continues. The value just continues to be there. So it's got a lot of nuance to it. But it's still a bit weird that Red Mage has so much of its high level play where the raise is such a huge thing for them to commit to, but it's also one of their greatest strengths, but it also isn't a strength when the fight doesn't allow for it to be a strength. And that's happened a lot. So it's just, again, there's a lot of elements to balance, but I always say, if you think you should make a video on something, what do you have to lose? Like, a video doesn't need to be like a banger. It just needs to be an expression of you and your thoughts and your, what you deign is your content type. And that's all that really matters. So if you want to make a video on that, you should make a video on that. Hashtag Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hi. First time asking a question. Welcome. It's another 2-minute meta question. Don't worry. I know I won't be escaping these, so it's hardly a surprise. In regards to crit and direct hit, do you think it'd be better to change direct hit for chance to crit and crit to just be crit damage? Yeah, I mean, that's a viable solution. I think the language is weird. I'd rather have crit hit rate and crit hit damage just be the names versus direct hit being the crit chances, especially after the last, 4 years where it's like, we have, actually, it's been more than 4 years. It's been since Stormblood. Yeah. So the past like 6 years where we know what direct hit is and we've all been educated on it, to suddenly take away a direct hit as a possibility and it still be called a crit, but the stat is direct. You know what I mean? Like, it's better to just call it crit hit rate and crit hit damage, which is viable, but I mean, crit is still king in that case. Then it's just about getting the balance that's like, you usually want like a 2-to-1 balance on crit damage to crit rate in terms of your stats, but like that, you still want to have like a minimum crit before that ratio kind of kicks in. Like, there's all sorts of little things like that. I think that just substats in general, they probably need to really look at, but it's question mark of when and if they'll actually do anything about that. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Haps. Hi. Hope birthday went well. Went pretty well. 2-part question for you. All right. With each expansion having 2 cities, do you know the rationale behind that? Is just to split the population, avoid overload? Yes and no. So they want worlds to feel a little bit more alive. Only having one hub city is most of the time kind of unrealistic based on where we've gone in the past. Now, that's not to say we need to have 2 hub cities, but we've kind of become accustomed to it. By splitting, it's not just about having 2 cities to split the population, it's the function of each city. For example, in Old Charlian, people will go there in order to use the market board. There's no market board available in Rads at Hand, but Rads at Hand has all of the end game NPCs in terms of tombstones, totems, all the places you would go for that. But then Charlian has stuff for like Criterion and crafting and what. So they split the actual stuff that is available in each town as well to sort of achieve that same vibe. And usually one town has like has a better lore around certain things existing there, or a better reason for lore wise for things to exist there. So that factors in as well. And 2, with so many zones being added to the game, 6 zones per expansion. Yeah, I guess on top of like exploration zones and whatnot. Is there ever a case where they would take away any? No. The closest you get is like when they shut down Diadem to remake Diadem. If they were, and like PvP areas, like they've gotten rid of, PvP maps in the past. That's kind of it. There's really no reason to take away, from a technical perspective, these areas or to undo them. I'm curious if there was any sort of technical reason why World of Warcraft eventually did an expansion that largely focused around remaking all of its zones. If it was just for the story effect and like the actual scope and scale of Deathwing and what he was capable of, or if there was, I don't know the answer, if there was any sort of technical reason as to why they would take an expansion away from adding as many new zones. They still added a bunch. I'm not going to say they didn't. But like a lot of the focus was around rebuilding the entirety of the world. And there's always that question of whether or not, Final Fantasy 14 will get that. I think they will, only because the story takes place linearly, and you're always entering the story linearly, and it doesn't always, a lot of it doesn't phase, like some of it does, but most of it doesn't. So no, I don't think there's any reason they would get rid of a functional zone that we have to go to, because they're all part of the main story. So you'd have to adjust the main story as well. So that instantly kind of undoes the possibility. So no, there's no reason why they would ever get rid of a zone. Hashtag first Monday of 2024. I like it. Hey, happy salutations and happy post-holidays. Hey, technically the New Year's Day is still a holiday, but I got what you're saying. Happy post-holidays too. My question stemmed from a random feeling I had after thinking over Endwalker's story one day. But do you feel the pacing of the story felt weird due to the fact they were trying to do the whole story in one patch instead of stretching it through the 0.1.5? No, because honestly, it was about the same length as the other MSQs were. I didn't feel rushed. I didn't feel poor paced at all. I felt like I got exactly the experience that I wanted from that. I was very pleased with the way Endwalker's story turned out. I didn't think it was too slow. The only parts that feel too slow are the actual quests that feel too slow. Like there's a few filler quest areas, like in the the X8 to like the 88 to 89 range when you're in Labyrinthos and you're revisiting Labyrinthos. A few too many actual just quests there. And then there's a section, I think it is... Where is the other section I'm thinking of where there's too many quests? And that's it. There's too many quests. But it's not like the story being told needs to slow down or speed up. It's that there's too many quests. I don't remember the other spot, but there's one or two spots where that's it. But not the story itself. I don't think they ran into any pacing issues, at least not for me. I felt very satisfied with it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hi. Have you ever done content in first person? I've done a few things, thought it was really fun. It is terrible. Final Fantasy 14 first person is terrible. The only way it's less terrible is if you turn off auto face target, and turning off auto face target really sucks in Final Fantasy 14. I remember back in the day, and there is a video on my channel of me doing Garuda hard mode in first person, but I also did phase 1 of Omega of Top in first person. That was the worst experience ever. It's terrible. The game's not made for it. The first person function is either you use it as a joke or you use it for like almost like a specific camera angle. And that's as good as it normally gets. So wouldn't recommend it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hi. Hope you have much success in 2024. Me too. Hey, at the very least, I have my biggest success of 2023 is my fitness and my health. So I've got that. Now in 2024, we continue that and we find some other stuff. Stopped playing 14 for good 5 months ago. Now it's boring. We also logged into 11 as it's free. Do you think they should merge 11 and 14 payments like paying $9 for both games? No. There's no reason to do that, ever. Like, a lot of people want it, and they may do it if the cost of Final Fantasy 11 and the amount of resources they put towards it essentially nullifies. Essentially, if nobody's working on 11 at some point, they're not paying anyone to work on it, that opens the budget to make a combined sub. I'm sure system-wise they could do it again because it has existed before. But while they are updating 11 every month, even in maintenance mode, and while they are updating 14, there's no reason to do a discounted combined sub. They only ever lose money on that deal because the number of people who are interested in 14 who want to play 11 long-term is going to be very, very low. There's people who are curious to try 11 and thus want the combined sub. That curiosity becomes no dollars in the pocket of Square Enix as soon as they don't like it, because it's now they've made this like reduced cost, and they've just reduced the one-time cost of somebody getting the sub, made the box sale, whatever, which comes with 30 days, and people can probably figure out if they're going to play past those 30 days after they play them. It's no, it doesn't, and especially for $9. Like, why would they go below the cost of Final Fantasy 14's sub? Like, they would at the very lowest go with like $18 or $20 instead of, you know, $12.99 to $14.99 plus $12.95, which is the minimums, which is, you know, it goes from 28 down to 20. That's as low as they would ever consider going. Not $9 for both games. That doesn't make any sense at all. Hashtag Happy Mondays. Hey, hello, sir. Hi. Question for you, since you expressed your love of Dark Souls. I've recently been experiencing Strangers of Paradise. I was wondering if you've ever played it. I played through it when it came out. I did the first DLC. I did not finish the second DLC. Came pretty close, and I didn't have any time for the third DLC. My other question is, what is a good Souls-like experience that is good for people new to the genre? That's actually an interesting one. I get confused by all the unknown attributes, how to build characters with Soul series stuff. I just want to play a game and enjoy it without having to look up a bunch of stuff. See, the thing is, when you become accustomed to it, you don't look anything up until after you've beaten it. You just kind of take whatever you discover. You understand the base game systems. Like, they explain to you, these are your weapons. These are how you upgrade your weapons. These are spells. And then you read the spell descriptions or try them out for yourself. It's a big series of discovering what things do, and then after you've beaten it, you can like, oh, you know, what about this and that and whatever, and that usually makes for, in my opinion, a better experience. But a Souls game that's easy for people to get into is actually a tough question, because I feel like the indie Souls games, which you'd almost expect to be the more new player friendly ones, are less, because they seem specifically committed to enticing people who have experience with Souls games. So then you have to look at the original Souls games, and they're all kind of a bit rough around the edges if you want to go to the ones that are easy to learn on. Like Demon Souls has some really gimmicky but ultimately very easy bosses, which makes it a little smoother to progress for people newer. But it's also got some very weird systems that are specific to Demon Souls. World Tendency is one of the more difficult to understand things and something you don't need to know. It's not knowledge that carries over to other Souls-likes. So then you have Dark Souls, but then that's more Metroidvania-esque. And until you pick that up, that becomes a little bit confusing to navigate. You might go a wrong way and wonder why everything's nearly impossible for you to kill or why you're dying in one hit. You might get frustrated by gravity or the physics because they're a bit older physically. You know, you don't have like a straight up jump button like you do in Elden Ring, for example. Dark Souls 3, I think Dark Souls 3 kind of teeters on being my recommendation. It's a nice in-between between the way a Souls game plays and the way something like Bloodborne plays without really going too far in either direction. But the content in Dark Souls 3 can be a little bit overwhelming for people brand new, like the specific bosses, especially, I can't remember, what's that dragon's name that has that charge attack that literally, people who already know have played, I can't remember his name, but there's like a dragon that has like an instant charge attack that like literally one-shots like most people if they don't have vitality, and there's just no good way to see it coming. So there are like aspects and bits that I feel like are less friendly to new players. So they all have bits and quirks, but it's just a matter of wanting to have that sense of discovery. And I think if you're okay with that idea and just committing to not looking anything up, it makes for a good first experience regardless of which one you pick. But I'd say Demon Souls, if you don't mind sort of some of the weird systems. Dark Souls, if you want something that's a little jank, but still kind of on the easier to navigate side. Dark Souls 3, if you want something that feels smoother to play, but still has something more, I guess, relatable to more of the Souls games that are out there. And then Elden Ring is the, I just want to get lost in something and I'll figure it out along the way option. Because it's massively overwhelming for Elden Ring to start as somebody new, but sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you need a deep end approach. So then you're prepared for absolutely everything. And as expected, most people not worried about asking questions throughout the holidays. There's a ton of Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays wishes. And then there's a couple of comments about stuff from last week. Somebody saying they wanted to see Lords of the Fallen on the side channel. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any of that VOD. I got really bad about holding on to VODs. Actually, I don't think I hired someone to do, I asked for a volunteer to do VOD uploads to the VOD channel. But I don't think it was till after my Lords of the Fallen stuff was gone. So that's kind of unfortunate. And then there's somebody asking about trying to play 13. Honestly, even with 13 being unoptimized for PC, it took me 2 seconds to fix it. Like I played 13 on PC recently and I did like 2 things and I had no issues with it the whole time. So I'm not saying that's what everyone's experience will be, but I've had no issues with any of the 13s, all 3 of them on PC. So I'm not really sure what to recommend. I would just recommend going with the PC version and Googling Final Fantasy 13 Steam fixes and just following a few instructions. And if you run into any particular issue, there's going to be a solution somewhere in there. I also saw the comment, Merry whatever, Squall Leonhardt. Yeah, I did say Merry whatever. I mean, not everyone, you don't know which holiday everyone, you can't just wish everyone a specific holiday, unless, you got, what it is they're going to do, it's a bit crazy. So that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. A nice quick one for you on this fine Monday. Don't forget that this coming Saturday, I am going to be co-streaming the opening keynote for the JP FanFest. That is going to be on both YouTube and Twitch, so feel free to enjoy it on either platform. And we'll have all of our usual content uploads coming after that. We'll have State of the Realms on the stuff. 6.55 shouldn't be too far around the corner. And then the wait begins. Anyway, with that, I'm going to go grab some food, and then I'm going to get working on something. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Happy New Year, and until next time, take care.